Pat, we're recording. What's up, good sir? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Don't mind the background noise. That's my bird clock. So every hour a new bird sings. Yeah, thanks for having me on your show.
Dude, I'm excited, and that I love a good bird clock. So
Yep.
If we hear it again, we know we've gone too long. So it's a good reminder.
Right.
So just real quick, before we dive into all things fatherhood and personal development, all sorts of fun shit that I've taken away from you and your content, a lot of inspiration that you put out there. For the folks who are listening who haven't stumbled across you on the interwebs, would you mind just giving them a little background, kind of who you are professionally, what you've done, and what you do today?
Absolutely. So I am a retired military guy, retired special ops guy. I did 22 years in Army special operations, myriad of different special ops units. I was very fortunate to have had that opportunity and to have made it through a bunch of different training and deployments, etc. I retired in 2005. I have built my own company. I started my own company in 2010 called TMACS Inc. And under that umbrella, I do tactical training, marksmanship, etc. I do fight training, close quarter battle, and then combat strength training. Those are my main areas of focus. But I've got so many things going on. It's ridiculous. I've got a lot of side projects, but it's good. I'm enjoying what I am doing. And it's been going real well. I've made a kind of a footprint for myself on social media, both on Instagram and on YouTube channels. So I've got some reach now, some pretty substantial reach.
That's awesome. And you're the type of person who should have that reach, who's putting out just awesome content, inspiring a lot of people, educating a lot of people, and, just in a positive way that's, pushing people in the right direction. Too many people.
Go ahead, man. I think if you have a big audience, you have an obligation, and why not? Because both things resonate, one negatively and one positively. So there's a lot of negative information on the interwebs, and that resonates or can be contagious to the negative, but the same works for positive, positive energy, positive vibes, positive messaging. And it's so easy to do, just be genuine instead of being shrill and negative. It's very fulfilling, when I see the feedback, when I hear the feedback of how my stupid, quirky little messages are having an impact, a positive impact on not only somebody's life, but a lot of times an entire family of people. And then the demographic is extremely wide. I have a lot of little kids watching my channels. So, so therefore I make sure I'm very careful and I keep it all very clean.
That's awesome. And I think that the negative stuff and the stuff that really kind of taps into some of this primal human emotion is this low hanging fruit, this easy, like cheap way to grab attention, which is unfortunate because it works, which we see with, media, with a lot of different outlets that are out there, but it doesn't have that sticking power and that impact that the positivity does. And you see it with your stuff. Like, you've gotten so much traction and so many people are just fired up. Just look at the comments on the videos and the posts that you put up. And it just, like you said, positivity generates more positivity. And if we can the more that happens, the more, enlightened the world is. And hopefully we can just keep things trending that direction. So I love what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm having fun with
it. Good. So on the family front and the kids front, how many kids do you have?
I've got 3 kids. One's an adult. She's almost 30 and she lives up north, Minnesota. And then I've got 2 younger kids that live with me. They're 17 and 19.
Nice. So I'm curious from your perspective, just on the time management piece. Cause like you said, you do a lot, you've got a business, you've got multiple businesses, plus all these side hustles and different things that you're working on, and putting out there, and just a lot of hobbies, it seems, as well, that integrate very well into your business.
Yep.
But how do you approach balancing your time with your family? I know you've got you've got a great relationship with your wife and a great marriage. How do you balance those different things, the professional drive and then all the personal stuff that you have going on as well?
So as far as the kiddies go, I make them aware of what I've got going on.
Mm.
So that way there's like some ownership, like even like this today with you, I say, hey, at 11 o'clock, I'm going lockdown. So I'm going to be doing this. And then at 1, I've got this phone conversation with so-and-so. So, I make them, or I keep them involved in what's going on day to day. And I keep them interested in what I'm doing too, so we talk about it, and I believe that they are interested. They may be feigning interest, but I don't care. I don't care, because they'll ask me about it. They say, hey, how was that? How was your course? This, and so I keep them involved as much as possible. And fortunately, they're very self-governed. They're very low maintenance. They don't require a lot from me. So it's not that hard. But even, for instance, I have a saying, every night is Saturday night, every morning is Monday morning, because when you're working for yourself, you work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So I try to get out of the house at close of business. So somewhere between 5 and 7 p.m. every night, or almost every night, I'll go downtown, grab a pint with my bride, but I'll bring the kids with, and that way they could walk around, grab a piece of pizza or something, just goof around and be kids. Cause it's a nice town, and it's set up for that, sidewalks and shops and fun stuff for kids to do. They're good company too. So it's not like, they're third wheels or anything when we go out and about. They're good company. They're interested and they're interesting. They're very well behaved. And like I said, very self-governed. So it's pretty easy.
I love that. And so you said you got out of the military around 2005, and you've got a 17 and a 19-year-old. So they were pretty young when you were still at the tail end of your military career there, right?
Right. And I have a sort of a unique situation that I want to explain, because I think it's relevant to your audience, and some folks have probably been in this situation. So the tail end, the last several years of my marriage went south. It was really bad. It was horrible. Their mom was basically, it's a typical story of being addicted to prescription meds. So that, and the toxic cocktail of mixing alcohol with it. I stayed in the relationship for as long as possible because of the kids. I lived in the bonus room above my garage for more than 4 years. That's where I lived. So, and I was almost single. I was pretty much like a single parent at the time, because I was taking care of them and taking care of their mom.
Sorry, what age are the kids around this time?
So this is from when things started to go bad when they were 4 and 6.
Okay.
And then when they were, let me see, 10 and 12, is that about right? 10 and 12. Yeah, about 10 and 12 is when I finally got a divorce. The police in my town told me, bro, you need to get out of this thing. You need to get out of this relationship. But I had a good time raising. They were my escape. The kids were my escape. They were my savior through this, through all of this crap, because it was very, very messy. Anybody, any of your listeners who have been through that, where their spouse or significant other is a addict, or user, whatever it is. So in this case, prescription meds and alcohol. There was no, connection pretty soon between the neuroreceptors. Everything was just dark, very shrill, very negative, a lot of suspicion and delusional. I moved out in 13, and about 500 yards away, there was a condo. So it's close, nice and close. And so for 7 years, I was now, going through the divorce process and trying to get custody, which is, it in some states, it's nearly impossible for the dad to get primary custody, sole custody. So, I would, visit as much as possible and try to keep that positive, because I saw them deteriorating, and I would plead my case to the magistrate and mobile crisis management, the police, lawyers. It's like I had nobody on my side, nobody. I mean, everybody on my side, because the school knew it, the friends knew it, the police knew it, but legally there was nothing I could do. I had my hands tied legally. So finally, just in 2020 wow. is when I got them full time, 2020. So now the struggle is, once again, they're very good. They're very self-governed, self-driven. They study. I don't have to get on them about keeping up their studies or anything like that, or behave. I never have to say, behave or watch your mouth or don't talk to so-and-so like that. There's counseling, but it's more professional development counseling instead of hard-nosed counseling. So now the struggle is just getting them comfortable with navigating life, just navigating life, because they weren't given that opportunity while they were in this living arrangement that they were in for the past 7 years since I left.
Right.
They were like, because they're not only controlling, but just, she wouldn't let them out of her sight. So they weren't given an opportunity for a long time to be kids. So that's what I'm doing now. Not only allowing them to be kids, but, just talking to them. Like my bride and I got them. They didn't even have identification. Wow. No identification. 17, 19, no identification. How long they've been with me now? Since July 1st. But they've got IDs, they've got driver's licenses, they've got bank accounts. They've been putting in submitting job applications, these kind of things, navigate life. So it's been fun, and it's been, in trickle mode this whole time, because you don't want to rush that kind of thing. Right. You've got to make very, very small calculated steps and allow them ownership and let them learn how to make decisions, because that's another thing that they were very uncomfortable doing, is making their own decision about anything, because their mom was so controlling. They couldn't even look at a menu in a restaurant and say, I would like this to eat, that kind of thing, without being scrutinized. So the simple things like that, like asking permission for such. So they're getting more and more comfortable now with asking permission for, let's say, hey, Dad, can you give me $10? Stuff like that. They couldn't even do that. They didn't know how. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a pretty unique situation, but my bride and I are so freaking jacked that they are with us, and they are too. They're stoked. I mean, just absolutely stoked.
So during that time, how much contact did you have with them and input, just kind of on helping their development? Because it sounds like you were close physically, but unfortunately didn't have as much opportunity to. Yeah.
So now the thing is, I had to work a lot. So I was gone a lot during those years, because I had to make enough to support myself, make enough to support them, and make enough for alimony. So I was working a lot, and the times they were with me, it was just, I said, they live in a stressful environment. So it's just fun. It's fun. Let's do whatever you want to do. I wouldn't, there was no scolding, or even if they goof something up, or even if their grades were slipping and their mom told me that their grades were slipping, I wouldn't counsel them about it, because they were getting enough of that at home. Right. So with me, it was very light, very laid back, and kind of lead by example, be positive, be happy. Because happiness, they forgot what happiness was. They had forgotten that. They hadn't, unless they were with me, they weren't happy, like elated, happy. So, it was tough. It was tough for all of us, for a long, long time. But the kids are resilient, and they could rebound. They could rebound, and mine have done a phenomenal job at rebounding. I mean, everything about them is different now in the past, 7 months or so. Their appearance their 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 physiques, their attitudes, their speech, everything about them is different. It's all gone full circle, and they're back to who they used to be when I was there, only more near adult now, because
Yeah.
they're hitting that age. So kids are resilient. So if anybody is in that situation, just remember that kids are resilient. And if you're in one of those type of crappy situations, do what you can while you can. But don't give up the ship. It's not lost.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled to hear that, obviously it took way too long. And you're right. I think the system is stacked against dads. And in some cases, in a lot of cases, there's reason for that. But in those cases like yours, where it's clear and obvious that, those kids need to be with you for the best outcome for them, it's heartbreaking to hear that it takes 7 years to get to that conclusion. But I'm thrilled to hear that they're back with you. I was preparing for this conversation. I listened to your conversation with Rogan, and you talked on that a little bit about, and I recommend not to rehash the whole conversation, but so I recommend folks go back and listen to that. You were awesome on Joe's
right
show.
on. Thank you very much.
But you talked a little bit about the time when you got out of the military and you had your own personal struggles and had to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and kind of rebuild yourself, rekindle your fire. I think you said, get your fire rekindled and then keep it ablaze.
Yep.
To be the guy, the man who you are today, who we all see on putting out all this amazing content. So you have actually gone through that chapter of life of having to kind of rebuild yourself, rekindle your fire. Has that experience that you went through at that point in your life helped you now with your kids, helping your kids kind of do that same thing and building up their fires from an amber?
There's no doubt, that was a horrible time. And if I talk about it too much, I get pretty emotional. So I don't talk about it too much.
Yeah.
I make people aware, but I don't want to revisit those days, but I will tell you this, man, it's so freaking weird. I would do it all over again to have what I have right now. But those almost 5 years of living in my bonus room above the garage, I was an absolute mess mentally. I had no drive, there was no drive, no fire. There was, I was in deep, dark depression. I was day drinking every single day, just kind of trickling it in. I wasn't walking around like a drunk, but I knew that what I was doing was wrong because I was day drinking. It was all day long during the whole day, just to kind of squelch what I had going on, in that household. But like I said, my kids were they were my savior, and they're the ones who ultimately assisted unknowingly in pulling me out of that deep, dark hole, because I had almost capitulated to that darkness, almost given up. And like you were mentioning, I realized I still had an ember, and all I needed to do was just nurture that ember and set it on fire. And once it was on fire, just keep stacking fuel on it. Just keep stacking, keep the blaze alive. But yeah, man, that sucked. And I hate it for people who have been in that situation. After I disclosed that on the Rogan show, because I went into it in a little bit of depth, the amount of correspondence I got was overwhelming, from people who either had been through it or were presently going through it. And they said that I assisted them in climbing out of that hole. Awesome. So I'm that wasn't rehearsed when I talked about that on the Rogan show. It just kind of happened. I had never disclosed it to anybody before, not an open forum.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm glad that it was a good platform to do that. And it makes me happy knowing that I helped so many people. But I often reflect on it because the kids went through the same thing.
Yeah.
But as kids. So it has no doubt that those dark times, no doubt, helped me not only reinvent myself, but have a more positive outlook on life There's no doubt about it. And like you, as you asked, it definitely assists me in, counseling them and talking to them, and, cause I know they've been through those shitty times as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, the cool thing is, I mean, it's kind of not comical, but a little bit, that the first time you shared it was to however many millions of people.
yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
the cool thing about that is that so many people and men who are struggling see that you pulled yourself up, came out the other side, but then also you have all this phenomenal content and work that you've put out into the world that can take that from them hearing a conversation to dive into all the different content programs, things that you offer to be able just to, keep stacking that fuel on to their embers, like you mentioned. So that's awesome, man. Kudos to you. And thanks for sharing that.
Yep. Thanks. And, what folks have to understand too, is I owe a debt of gratitude to them as well. They're thanking me, but the thing is, no, thank you, because without you, cause I need to be fired up too. I like to fire people up, but I need to be fired up. So the feedback I get from them helps motivate me to do the next thing, to show the next workout in the rain, or to make a really funny basic dude stuff, those kind of things. So, so I owe my audience or fan base as well. I am grateful for them.
I love that. So, you talk about, you just mentioned how your rain workouts and basic dude stuff, and that just some of the stuff that I love that you put out. Do your kids get in on that at all? Or do they have similar interests in terms of the fitness and the intensity, or not so much?
So, when they moved in, and even as I was like visiting them, during those hard times when they were living with their mom alone, I would never try to push them, to replicate what I was doing, but just leading by example. Just leading by example. They could see it. And so my daughter Cyan, she is like me in artwork. She does a lot of artwork, and it's phenomenal. It's really good. It's good stuff. So and we have the same musical taste too. So we could, that's where a lot of our conversation revolves. I do talk to both of them about being more involved in nature, because I'm a bird watcher. And so every once in a while I'll say, hey, check it out. Come here, grab these binos. Look at what we got out there. So, just by leading by example, they're more interested in those things.
Yeah.
My son James is a fan, of me. So he follows everything I do online. And since he's moved in, he's been working out. Awesome. Which when we had this discussion yesterday, because he saw me working out in the rain, and he comes out into the garage and he goes, what do you got going on? I said, well, I just finished. So I did this movement, that movement, this movement. He goes, yeah, I'm trying to find the motivation. I said, well, here it is, because he does the same thing for me. There's days when I'm not fired up at all. And I said, where are you going? He goes, I'm going up to the gym because we have a clubhouse here in the neighborhood. So he goes to an indoor gym. But ever since he's been here with me, he's been going to the gym, a few times a week. And so he'll come back and I'll get a report from him. I said, what'd you get today? He goes, well, today, I call it, what is he? Mile Monday. So I get on the treadmill, run a mile, and then I do these things and those things. And I don't say, well, you should think about doing this instead. He's doing it, so I don't need to say, do full squats or do some deadlift stuff. He's doing it. He's getting after it, and he watches my vids too. So, that could generate some ideas or help assist in generating ideas for him. So, but I think the lead by example is pretty powerful. And that also goes with, like choring and stuff like that, working around the house. Cause when they moved in, they were very skittish about taking initiative, on anything. Now they're very comfortable, because when they first moved in, they weren't comfortable. This wasn't their space, So there were no real orders given on anything like do this, do that, very, very minimal. After about a month, I wrote down a list of the things that I have to do every day. Walk the dogs, feed the chickens, clean this, sweep the floors, do the dishes, fold the laundry, take out the trash, pick up the pine cones. And I realized, holy crap, there's a lot of chores that I have to do every day besides for just work.
Yeah.
And I said, I put it on the fridge and I said, hey, and this is a mantra that I say to them. There's always shit to do. There's always shit to be done. Always. So I said to Rebecca, and I said, so if I am the breadwinner, if I'm working 3 full-time jobs, why should I have to do all of these things? I said, I'm not telling you guys to jump into this. I'm just saying that if you see something that needs to be done, just go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and do it. Just don't be afraid about taking the initiative. And so for a couple months, I had to ask him, hey, would you feed the dogs? Hey, would you pick up the pine cones? Hey, would you take out the trash? But now they're just doing it. They're just getting it done. And like on Sundays, that's a big choring day for both Rebecca and me. And Rebecca and I don't plan it. We just know, hey, it's a good day. Let's just start taking care of stuff.
Yep.
Let's be good getter-ridder-overs. Let's crush all the recycling. And we usually start Sundays by maybe 3 or 4 hours of just choring, but the kids see that. So we could hear them with vacuum cleaners in their rooms, or, they're washing their sheets, those kind of things. Yeah. But it catches on, because they're like, holy crap, Dad and Mama Mac are busting their asses. We should do something too. But they're really good. They're catching on, and they're taking the initiative on stuff, which is awesome.
I love that. I love the leading by example. Have you gotten into the Clubhouse app at all? Have you played around with that?
No, it doesn't sound familiar. I'm going to write it down.
Yeah, it's a new kind of social media thing that I started playing around with in the last 2 weeks. But one really cool thing is you can find conversations, and they're basically conference calls you can listen in on and then raise your hand and participate in. Mm-hmm. And I found a little kind of group of dads on there, and a lot of guys who have podcasts and things like that. So I started talking in this one, and the guy had an interesting perspective of it's good for your kids to have a healthy dose of fear of you, which was a little triggering to me. And I didn't agree with that. But then as he talked about it, I realized his word fear really meant respect in my perspective. Mm-hmm. And it cleared it up. But what you're saying, I mentioned it because what I realized in that conversation, and I've picked up on this in my own parenting journey, is if your kids have respect for you, they're going to do those things. They're going to follow your example. Mm-hmm. And how that respect comes about is living your life in alignment with the way that you would request that they live their lives. And it's not just doing it for a day or a week, it's doing it all the time. And then, for you is over a course of months, they started picking up on that and living that way. So I love just that story because it's the perfect example of it.
It is so important because kids pick up on that stuff. They know I get up early. They see me bring Rebecca coffee in the morning. They see that if there's trash or something, that I don't walk past it, that I'm going to pick it up. They see that I care about what I look like when I go out into the world. And they see me interact with other people, and it's cordial and friendly, and it's and they see that I know a lot of people, and I'm not afraid to socialize. Mm-hmm. I'm extroverted, but I'm introverted as well. I like time by myself, but yeah, they see all that stuff. They see the hobbies and the chores and that I'm busy. They don't see me binge watching, several hours of Netflix shows with a bag of chips on my belly. They don't see that.
Right.
There's always stuff to be done, and all for, the greater, either for the benefit of the family or the greater good.
Mm-hmm. So I'm the same way, by the way. I'm definitely can be the extrovert, but I love my time alone.
Yep.
But it seems like you have just so much going on with your business, with your family. Where do you find time alone? Is that a thing in TMACS world, or is that something you got to be intentional about?
Yeah, well, I have my, my workout time. So that's all me, just me alone. Um, I usually get up before everybody. So I have that time where I could get, because this is now like a job for me.
Yeah.
I have to get on that and just answer some questions and, give supporters love and give the people with whom I'm aligned some attention as well. But I usually have that morning chunk. And every day I walk the dogs too. So I have that time, that's just me and the dogs out in the woods. But yeah, I make it. I make that time, it's not hard because they're not up my ass, nor is Rebecca. They're not needy. None of them are needy, so it's not horrible. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And then even when they're here in my company, if we could all three of us or even four of us be in the living room doing our own separate things without interrupting anybody else. One's watching TV, one's checking out her feed on IG. I'm playing the guitar, and Rebecca's writing on her laptop. That's pretty common too. So we're together, but we're all doing our own thing as well.
That's cool. Yeah. And I think that's important too, to find your time, find those things that you do for yourself.
Yep.
And make sure that you make time for that as a dad. Fill your cup up so you can overflow that energy into your relationships too. So with your businesses and your content, you talk a lot about, the fitness component for sure. And then also the combat training, the different things that men should, that you recommend they do to be able to defend themselves, defend their families, help other people, all those things. For dads listening who don't have any experience kind of in that world of either self-defense or combat or anything like that, what's your perspective on, them getting involved in some of those activities and getting themselves trained up, or a good starting point if they do have that interest?
It's pretty simple if you put it in terms of how I wrote a book called Sentinel, and if you take a look at the subtitle, when I tell guys what that subtitle is, they go, "Oh man, you're right. Yeah. Be the agent in charge of your own executive protection detail." So as a dad, you are in charge of everyone's security, their well-being, their mental and physical health, and how they develop spiritually. You're in charge of that stuff. So you don't need to be necessarily a gunslinger or a MMA professional, but you need to be switched on. You need to, when you're out and about, stay situationally aware, and you just need to think about that stuff. Think about contingency planning, because too many don't think about contingency planning. What if this happens? What if the entire state in which we live never gets snow, but all of a sudden we get a week of snow and below freezing temperatures, and we have no water, no food, no electricity? What if that happens? And a lot of people don't think about that. So it just happened to an entire state, and so many people were in this horrible state of despair, where they had no food for the kids, no water, no electricity, none of that stuff. So, preventative maintenance, or, mitigating those kind of horrible situations is pretty easy, just with a little bit of preparedness. Let me have a backup plan. Let me make sure that there's gas in the freaking cars. Let me make sure that I have a couple days of supply of water. So beyond any of the, the fight stuff, the shooting stuff, the tactics, the combat strength training, you should start there. You should start there.
Yeah.
You're not another lead by example. My kids have never seen me even talk on the cell phone while I'm driving. I always make a point of it too, about how many people are distracted. They're distracted. Why that person's stopping in front of us? More than likely they're on their cell phone. So I kind of went off the beaten path there on what the topic is, and then dads should maintain some kind of level of fitness, right? They don't need to be absolute stallions, but some level of fitness, because in the event that things go south, you need to be able to scoop those kids up or grab your bride and boogie with her, boogie. You need to be able to pull somebody through a window, help them, assist them out of a burning building, out of a car wreck, or run from a falling tree, whatever it is. So it has to start there with being switched on and maintaining some kind of level of fitness.
I love that. And I think it's so true. And something you said right at the beginning of that in the subtitle of the book, even, is just being sorry, can you repeat the subtitle of the book?
Yep. So, be the agent in charge of your own executive protection detail.
Yeah.
So, an executive protection detail, that's a horrible job. EP is horrible. I've done it before. It sucks. But you take what they do, like, let's say State Department, Secret Service, or whatever, and work your day-to-day operations at this micro level of what they do. So your car is your limo, your home is your embassy,
right?
And when you go out to a restaurant, you do just a hasty advance. Just look around, look for an emergency exit. So that book talks about all that stuff, that Sentinel book. But and I'm not trying to sell a book here or anything like that, because just saying those things alone should resonate and should get guys thinking, man, you're right. I should plan on a contingency or plan for contingencies.
And I think the other component of that is just that you have to take ownership of it. And you mentioned it too with, being the spiritual leader of the house, being the leader of the house in these different areas requires you to take a step back and think about that for a minute and say, okay, yes, but in order to do that, I have to take ownership of that aspect of my life. I can't wait for my wife to ask me to be the leader of the house, or I can't wait for there to be a need. You got to take that on yourself. And I think that's probably even, first of all, it's a good book plug, and we should all read that book, it sounds like, but taking ownership of those different areas of your life to be the leader of the household, just taking that little shift in perspective and mindset, I think is going to do a lot of good for guys who don't have that mindset already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, when it comes to, leading by example too, and that kind of mindset, that there's so many different areas, like when you said this, the spiritual thing, appreciating Mother Nature, for example, appreciating that. My kids know that I'm a nature freak, and they know that, but they see how emotional I can be about it too. And that it's not fake. And they, so this is sort of related, but here's another tough one that's been tough for me, is getting them to understand the value of a dollar. Because nowadays with Generation Zers, it's a different type of kid now. They've always had one of these things in their hands.
Right.
Always, they've always known how to swipe right. And the appreciation of a dollar isn't what it used to be. It just isn't. It isn't there at all. And work ethic and stuff like that. I mean, when I've been working since I was 14. I had my own business when I was 14. I had customers. I had a bank account when I was 14 years old. I had my first car when I was 15. I couldn't even drive it yet. I just worked on it. But I had stuff. I had money. But they see that, because I'm pretty comfortable right now financially. But what they don't see is being frivolous with money and being not necessarily cautious, but not being reckless. That's a huge one too. Nowadays with the Generation Zers is value of a dollar, work ethic, showing up on time. I talk to my kids about never being late out of uniform, those kind of things.
Why do you think that is? You think it's just the instant gratification that's available through the devices and being able to kind of access whatever it is, always having had that access to whatever is
Yeah.
on the.
I think as parents, we've become lazier too,
Mm-hmm.
because kids they're entertained more easily because they have all these devices and TVs with uh, hundreds of channels.
Right.
And yeah, so for us, I think we want to live vicariously through them. We want them to have a better life than we did. And we become a little lazier as parents because they're entertained. Screw it. I don't need to
Yeah.
teach them anything. The internet's there for them. So yeah, we're at fault, no doubt, for a lot of it. I'm guilty of it. I know that.
Yeah. Well, it's so true. I mean, my daughter's only 13 months old, so she's still figuring it out, but it's as easy if she's in a crappy mood or we can't figure out what exactly she wants to do, or we're bored trying to figure out something with her.
Mm-hmm.
We could throw Elmo on TV and she is instantly hooked. Right. And it is taken. We've had to sit down and have some conversations with my wife and myself and just say, all right, we can't use that as a crutch. Maybe I'm not of the belief that kids can never watch TV or anything like that. I think it's fine. She's at grandma's today. She's watching the TV, no doubt at some point.
Yep.
That I don't think that's from, I think it's exactly what you said. When us as parents are being lazy and relying on that to do our job as watching our kids, educating our kids, giving them exposure to experience, I think that's where we run into trouble.
There's no doubt. And I see it all the time with, I'll see kids who are not behaving poorly. They could be in a stroller. So let's say 1.5 or something, or under 2, and they're not just behaving. They're as good as can be. And the parent will still put a phone in their hands,
right?
And they still know how to swipe and push buttons and stuff. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me, man? The danger today is kids aren't bored. So,
right.
When you're bored, you are forced to be creative. You're forced to use your imagination, and there's a lack of that now. Lack of expeditionary mindset of being able to explore and figure things out. I mean, there's so many people my generation who were completely entertained with a pile of dirt and a couple sticks.
Yeah.
And maybe a rock or something like that. I mean, 100% entertained. You add a truck to that equation and I'm good for hours, hours and hours. So yeah, I think, the point is, yes, we're guilty of it.
Yeah.
We're guilty of it.
Yeah. I remember just as a kid coming up, with games with kids around the neighborhood, that if I went and tried to figure out the rules or play those games today, I would wonder what I was smoking back then. But
right.
That's a full day of entertainment that, in the summer, you ride your bikes into the woods and then you figure out some stupid stuff to do. And I think you're right. I think that's pretty important.
Yep.
You mentioned how being on social media and interacting with your fans and followers and the people who are interacting with your content is a part of your job, almost a job of itself. Now, how do you turn it off when you're going out to get a pint with your wife at the end of the day? Is that phone gone? Are you totally locked in and off the clock at that point? Or is that something that it's always on for you?
Nope. Absolutely 100%. Nope. It's in the pocket. It's in my pocket. I'm going to pull out that phone if I need to play some songs on a touch tune jukebox.
Right. Yeah.
Or if I want to show Rebecca like a picture I took during the day. I said, oh, check this out. A Cooper's Hawk landed in the backyard and I got a picture of it on my cell phone. But no, we are adamant about that. Too many, or there's one other reason when I pull the phone out. It's because of this. Too many people nowadays, they'll go out on a date with their significant other, with their bride, their husband, and you'll see both of them on their phones.
Yep.
And I'll look at this couple and I go, I guarantee you they've got a babysitter at home
Mm-hmm.
and they're both on their phone. So I've got a folder on here of those people. I mean, dozens and dozens, because a lot of times they're sitting right next to me. They're oblivious that I'm taking their picture, but I use it as kind of an example. Like I show my kids, I say, hey, never get into this mode, even with your friends, never get into this mode, because if you're out with your friend and you're both on your cell phone, what you're saying to the one person across from you is, I'm bored. You don't interest me at all. You're not interesting. This is way more interesting. I think it's a horrible message. And I've got a picture on there, 6 people, all sitting around a table, all with a beer from, all 6 of them are on their phones. None of them are talking none of them are conversing with the other. None of them. So yes, I am adamant about it. The phone, Rebecca and she's a champion too, man. She's a freaking rock star. I swear to God. But she is adamant as well.
Yeah. I've found myself and my wife before where we're in a conversation and something is like, oh, let me pull that up. And she's like, yeah, I got to show you this. So we're talking, but I realize we're doing it, but like as part of our interaction, I'm like, oh shit, we look like those people right now.
Right.
I should care whatever people think, but it's like, we totally look like those fools right now.
Totally look like those douchebags. Yep.
Especially in the COVID era when a lot of people would die to go out and have a beer with a friend, and it's crazy just to think of. So with that kind of along that lines, do you then just block that time? That's, all right, here's my social media time cause that's part of your job that you're on there interacting.
Yep. So, like we talked about, when we're out, it's in my pocket. If I get a text or even if it rings, I don't even get it. Even if it rings, that. I'm not going to tell Rebecca, hold on a second, I got to answer my phone. Yeah. I have voicemail. Yeah, I could go there. The text could more than likely wait. If I get text after text after text after text, she'll look at me and she'll say, hey, maybe check those out just in case. Yeah. And I go, all right, well, I'll just take a peek. Oh, nope. I know this one can wait.
Yeah.
Yep. I know that one can wait. But if it is my folks or something, or there's some kind of emergency, I want to just maybe take a peek. But yeah, so I have a couple different blocks during the day where I am dedicated to that social. And one is first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. So get up, grab that coffee, turn the news on. So I'll do both at the same time. Listen to some headlines and scan through that. And it doesn't take me long anymore because I don't answer questions on it anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm online coaching squad now. So on Patreon. So if people want to know why I'm wearing a rag on my belt, they could go there and I'll tell them the full story.
Right.
Because I don't have disposable time,
yeah,
to answer questions about what kind of shoes I'm wearing and what do I put in my beard. If you want to know, go to my Patreon coaching site. Yeah, coaching squad. So it's right there. So yeah, there's do it in the morning, and then like prior to me going out at night, or prior to time with my bride.
Yeah.
Is when I'll do that. So usually 2 times during the day. I might get on it again if I post like a workout or something like that. I'll get on it as well, but try to limit it more and more because, man, people are too they're so connected that they're just disconnected now. They're addicts, they're junkies.
Yeah.
Complete junkies.
Literally getting that hit of that chemical cocktail that our brains work up through it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my next question was about how your beard is so awesome. So we'll skip that one. We'll go to Patreon. But I did want to ask about any advice that if you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice when your kids were just being born, or even, if a new dad came up to you and asked, what's your advice for me? Is there one piece of wisdom that jumps out in your mind of, something that really is a thing to drive home?
Well, I think, kids are vicarious learners, right? So there's no doubt about that. If you're laid back, more than likely your kid's going to be laid back. If you're super amped and worry and stress, it's going to have an effect on them as well. You know, it's
Mhm.
going to trickle down. I think one of the best things that I spent a lot of time, and like I said too, they were my escape. You know, they were uh, my my sunbeams coming through the dark clouds. You know, so I spent a lot of time with them, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's wrong to spend a lot of time with your kiddies. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of loving time. You know, I read to them every night too. You know, starting at a young age, and would get super animated with the books that I was reading. You know, just crazy and off the charts animated. Um, but some advice is don't be condescending. You know,
Mm.
talk to them like people, not like kids. For me, that was something I learned from people I respected and seeing how they raised their kids. So I saw that and saw how those kids grew up, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do that whenever I have kids. Just treat them like people.
Yeah.
You know, like not necessarily equals, because they're not. You know, because you have to have some kind of government in place, right? A hierarchy, but you know, treat them like people, not like little kids.
I love it. I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Pat, for the guys who are listening to this, they want to check out some of the stuff you're putting out there, the content, the courses, all the fun stuff that you have to offer. Where should they go to check it out?
Well, my moniker, my avatar, whatever you want to call it, my maxim is TMACS Inc.
Mm-hmm.
It started as a business name, but now people call me TMACS, you know. But so that's TMACS Inc. on on World Wide Web. It's TMACS Inc. on IG, and that's a pretty good place for just about all the stuff I do. My podcast is off of that. My store, my YouTube channel, everything is off of those two things. So you could pretty much find it all right there.
All right. Well, we'll have it all linked up. Pat, I appreciate your time, man. This was awesome. I'm inspired.
Right.
Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing some of the tough times too, because I know guys that'll be really beneficial for anybody who's going through that.
Yep. You are welcome. And thank you for having me. Boom.